how to think about your future. And this is related to a paradigm shift that I had going back a few years in my, not just my business, but in my life in terms of how to think about my future. And it's a really kind of interesting way of looking at time. And there's an illustration that I want to share with you guys, which is if you picture your future as being a mountain, and each of these little peaks represent time. The interesting thing when I say play with time is that, as you know, today, present moment's the only moment that exists, right? So this is, in actuality, an illusion. This is kind of like think of the horizon. Like you're never going to get here, but by using this exercise here, I think it's interesting in terms of giving you context on the types of things that you should be working on, and more importantly, why you should be working on them. And again, when we're playing with time, what I like to do is set up my world, my life, and my business in quarters. So we work in actual seasons. And so thinking about breaking up a year into four chunks, and then every single peak, think of that as a year. And again, another interesting thing is that the world, especially today, is changing so rapidly. We can't even fathom what's going to be coming up for us, a year down the road, 2 years down the road. And so when people talk about planning, 2 years out, 3 years out, I think it's kind of nonsense because there's no bloody way that we can predict the tools, the trends, and everything that's going to be happening a year or 2 years down the road. So I like to focus on, I call it like the Goldilocks of time frames. A quarter is, it's not too long and it's not too short, and you can actually wrap your head around it. And the other piece to that is you can make it really, really measurable, so you can track your progress right down to the day, because you know that things are going to remain relatively constant, and you've got enough runway here to get the airplane off the ground. And so just jumping back here in terms of these three categories, which is kind of interesting. And this was something that I learned, a while back, and it really clicked for me in terms of, in our business, why do we go there every day and bust our asses and, compelling our team to work on stuff like increase sales? After a while, you start to question, why am I doing this? And if you can anchor it against a purpose, that's kind of your, marathon, not a sprint, your fuel that's going to keep you in it and keep you interested and keep you motivated and fascinated in the long run. So that's your purpose. And the interesting thing here is that what I learned was over time, your values are really the only constant. I mean, you can look at your business or your life a year or 2 years or 3 years down the road, and if you look back even, you'll see that your goals have changed. Where you wanted to be when you were 20 versus when you were 30 versus when you were 40, it's probably much different. And so the values remain the same, but your goals can change, which is totally fine. And to the extent that your goals, the things that you're actually doing, how you're spending your time, overlap with your values, your purpose here, your values, that's where you get fulfillment. And again, going back to time, fulfillment is really today. This is the only moment that matters in your life. It's today. And so we want to be moving every single day, week, month, quarter, year towards having a life which overlaps perfectly with our values, if that makes sense. And so these dictate your goals, and your goals, the trick here with this mountain is, you can see this little guy, by the way, he can't even see. You can feel this, but you can't see. Once you get here, you realize there's another peak. Then you realize there's another peak. That's the other piece to this is you can't even see these mountains. From this vantage, it looks like here's my goal. This is my future. But when you get there, because we underestimate what we can accomplish in a year, and we overestimate what we can get done in a week and a quarter often. So you can't even see these peaks here until you actually reach it. So let's say that you wanted to, in your business, you're just starting out, you want to get to $1 million. Well, by the time you get to $1 million, you're going to be up here, and you're going to say, let's do 2, let's do 10, let's do 20, let's do 100, as an example, right? So you don't know what you don't know. And once you're up here, you're going to realize that this is just base camp. And there's there's like infinite possibilities for you to expand into the future. And so the purpose of your goals are to move you more in alignment with your values, your purpose there. And so how do you do this stuff? How do you actually, increase sales, increase cash flow? Well, the reason that you don't have, within the context of, again, to use the example of sales in your business, is because you have gaps in typically one of three areas, right? So in terms of sales, you might have a gap in capabilities. Now that could be that you need a salesperson. That could be that you need to start leveraging a new and better way of achieving these things through, let's say, Facebook ads as another example. And right now, you're not increasing sales. You can't because you don't have the capability of Facebook ads. So what do? You either hire someone or you learn it. Capacity means that you might not have time to work on these things. And so to free up capacity, let's say you're doing a bunch of stuff that's, let's call it $10 or $20 per hour activities. You don't have capacity to actually work on those things that are going to move your needle. So another thing that is going to get you there is to increase and expand your capacity by hiring and delegating and outsourcing and automating and eliminating. To free up your time so you can focus on acquiring capabilities to move you forward towards accomplishing these goals. And then other things might be messes in your life. Could be digital, could be physical. So how you run your processes could be a complete mess, could be a disaster. And that could be preventing you from being able to even take on more sales because your processes are a mess. Things are happening manual. You might have a lot of tribal knowledge that relies on people within your organization. And so thinking within these three buckets here, these are going to unblock you and move you forward towards these goals, which their only purpose is to serve moving you within alignment of your purpose, which is pulling you in the direction of your big future, which doesn't exist because it's today. But the game is to move and make progress meaningfully every single day so that tomorrow, today determines the tomorrows of your life. Tomorrow, you can turn around, you'll take a step forward, you'll turn around, look backwards, and hopefully you're not on the same plane here. Hopefully you've moved up a degree or a couple degrees, right? You look back, then you take the next step, you look back. Am I moving in this direction? Yes or no? And the last piece to this is that if a lot of people they just get kind of scatterbrained, shiny object syndrome, and they lack focus. They want to do everything. And when that happens, guess what the size of these mountains turns into? They turn into little molehills because you have 10, 20, 100 mountains that you want to climb simultaneously. Well, guess what? If you can't devote your energy and resources in fewer areas, then the mountain's going to be smaller, and you're going to be trying to climb a bunch of mountains, and they'll actually be the size of molehills. So really, successful people tend to focus on less so that they can move the needle further, because we all have, finite energy, time, attention, resources. And so to the extent that you can focus and confirm that, you're focusing in the right area, it's within alignment of your purpose, your values, and then what is going to pull you further. If it's impact and freedom, money helps solve a lot of problems, obviously. So that's one of the vehicles to pull you forward. Hopefully you're profitable. And then are you enjoying the journey? So, vacation, taking time for yourself, for your family. How are you going to do that? You're going to look at messes, capabilities, and capacity. So I hope that's helpful. Thought I would share that thought exercise. This was an epiphany I had years ago, and it's been really helpful. And the interesting thing is, it's okay to change your mind. I have many times. My wife and I have changed our minds several times in terms of where our big future lied. But the commonality has always been, we want to maximize our freedom and our time with our kids. We want to give them an amazing childhood and be present, not just, give them a nice house and all that kind of stuff, but we want to be present for our kids and do stuff and be there, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally as well. So I hope that's helpful again. And I think this is an interesting illustration with playing with time. And that's how to think about your future. Hope it helps. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.